so she might take her vengeance there. 7 dwarves, 1 and a red for a 2/2 dwarf creature. 7 dwarves gets +1/+1 until for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck can have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves. The gleam of rubies and my brothers and sisters by my side. What more could I want, says Brognall III. Return to nature. 1 and a green. Instant. Choose 1. Destroy target artifact. Destroy target enchantment. Or exile target card from a graveyard. Long after the magic wore off, the mice still dreamed of glorious galloping from Tales of the Fae. Giant's Skewer. 1 and a black for an equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a creature, create a food token. It's an artifact with pay 2 and tap. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Equip for 3, pay 3, and attach to target creature you control. Equip only as a sorcery. Prophet of the Peak. Costs 6. It's a 5/5 cat artifact creature. When Prophet of the Peak enters the battlefield, scry 2. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Then put any number of them on the bottom of your library and the rest on top in any order. It frequently predicts imminent death by devouring. Redcap Raiders. Costs 2 and a red for a 3/2 Goblin Warrior creature. Whenever Redcap Raiders attacks, you may tap an untapped non-human creature you control. If you do, Redcap Raiders gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. I admire their courage as much as I despise their savagery, says Zerkara the Bold. Gingerbread Cabin. Forest Land. Tap to add a green. Gingerbread Cabin enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other forests. When Gingerbread Cavern enters the battlefield untapped, create a food token. It's an artifact with pay 2 and tap. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Wicked Guardian. Okay, costs 3 and a black for a 4/2 human noble creature. When Wicked Guardian enters the battlefield, you may have it deal 2 damage to another creature you control. If you do, draw a card. Some are born to greatness. You were born to scrub greatness's floors. Wandermare. 1 a green and a white for a 3/3 horse creature. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, put a +1/+1 counter on Wandermare. It doesn't need to have gone on the adventure first. A good steed will carry you home. A great steed will carry you to glory, says Sir Alan the Lion's Claw. Witch's Oven. Costs 1. It's an artifact. Tap. Sacrifice a creature. Create a food token. If the sacrificed creature's toughness was 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens instead. They are artifact creatures. They are artifacts with pay 2 and tap. Sacrifice this artifact. You gain 3 life. The wafting smells are both scrumptious and suspicious. Thundering Snapper. Costs 4. Blue-green hybrid mana for a 4/4 Turtle Hydra creature. Whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater, draw a card. While humans hear only a deafening roar, the Fae hear music of breathtaking beauty. Witching Well costs a blue. It's an artifact. When Witching Well enters the battlefield, scry 2. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them on the bottom of your library and the rest on top in any order. Pay 3 and a blue and sacrifice Witching Well. Draw 2 cards. It was built by the Witch of Lochmere. Most of the wishes it grants are its own. Fairy Guide Mother costs a white for a 1/1 fairy creature with flying. No one is so lost that a fairy can't find them. With an adventure, Guilt of the Fae, 1 and a white for a sorcery. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. That says Gift of the Fae. Then exile this card. You may cast the creature from exile later. Run away together. 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose two target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. Virtue is virtue, whatever the heart that nurtures it. Says Malikan, Vandrus Exile. Garenberg Squire, 1 and a green for a 2/2 human soldier creature. Whenever you cast a creature spell that has an adventure, Garenberg Squire gets +1/+1 until end of turn. It doesn't need to have gone on the adventure first. Find him a weapon as big as his dreams. This is Yorvo, Lord of Garenberg. Yorvo is another card that I really like. Smitten Sword Master, 1 and a black for a 2/1 human knight creature with lifelink. My quest, why to marry a Yara or die trying. With an adventure, Curry Favor costs a black for a sorcery. You gain X life and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. Golden Egg costs 2 for a food artifact. When Golden Egg enters the battlefield, draw a card. Pay 1 and tap. Sacrifice Golden Egg. Add 1 mana of any color. Pay 2 and tap. Sacrifice Golden Egg. You gain 3 life. Idyllic Grange. Plains Land. Tap to add a white. Idyllic Grange enters the battlefield tapped, unless you control 3 or more other planes. When Idyllic Grange enters the battlefield, untapped, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Every hero's journey starts somewhere. Garenberg Paladin, 4 and a green for a 4/4 giant knight creature with the adamant. If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast this spell, Garenberg Paladin enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Garenberg Paladin can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Eye Collector costs a black for a 1/1 fairy creature. Whenever Eye Collector deals combat damage to a player, each player puts the top card of their library onto their graveyard. Lord Rankle will see you now. All he asks is a small token of tribute. Scalding Cauldron costs 1. It's an artifact. Pay 3 and tap. Sacrifice Scalding Cauldron. It deals 3 damage to target creature. It's a witch's trick. This cauldron full of pain. I wouldn't dump it on any but the wicked. Shambling Suit, 3. It costs 3 for a star 3 or a construct young squire gripped her sword as the clinking stranger emerged. It was no knight that had come to challenge her from beyond the great henge. Turn into a pumpkin. Costs 3 and a blue for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Draw a card. Adamant. If at least 3 blue mana was spent to cast this spell, create a food token. It's an artifact with pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact. You gain 3 life. Mysterious Pathlighter. 2 and a white for a 2/2 fairy creature with flying. Each creature you control that has an adventure enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. It doesn't need to have gone on the adventure first. For good or ill, most Fae can't resist meddling in the adventures of any knight they meet. And our rare, Opportunistic Dragon, costs 2 and 2 red for a 4/3 dragon creature with flying. Whenever Opportunistic Dragon enters the battlefield, choose target human or target artifact an opponent controls. As long as Opportunistic Dragon remains on the battlefield, gain control of that permanent. It loses all abilities and it can't attack or block. We got a mountain. And we got an ad for Magic Arena. Queen of Ice. 2 and a blue for a 2/3 human noble wizard creature. Whenever Queen of Ice deals combat damage to a creature, tap that creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Rage of Winter. Pay costs 1 and a blue for a adventure sorcery. Target creature. Tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Then exile this card. You may cast the creature later from exile. Crystal Slipper. 1 and a red for an equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste. Equip 1. Pay 1. Attach to target creature you control. Equip only as a sorcery. After the death of her mother, Cassia found that things that appear fragile can be very strong indeed. From beyond the great henge. Silver Flame Squire. 1 and a white for a 2/1 human soldier creature. Beacons along the borderlands are lit at any incursion from the wilds. With an adventurer on alert, 2 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Untap it. Then exile this card. You may cast the creature later from exile. Lash of Thorns. Costs a black instant. Target creature gets +2/+1 and gains death touch until end of turn. Another angry mob. When will they learn to leave me be? Says Darren Edgewall Outcast. Rosethorn Halberd. Costs a green equipment artifact. When Rosethorn Halberd enters the battlefield, attach it to target non-human creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Equip for 5. Pay 5. Attach to target creature you control. as a sorcery. Hengewalker costs 3. A 2/2 golem artifact creature with adamant. If at least 3 mana of the same color was spent to cast this spell, Hengewalker enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Everything that inhabits Garrett Brig is affected by the wild magic flowing through the Great Henge. Reeve Soul, 1 and a black sorcery. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Into Amethyst I pour Envy's Shadow, Sorrow's Gleam. Lure the one whose scorn I pour, that I may hear one final scream. Barrow Witch Incantation. Roving Keep costs 7 for a 5/7 wall artifact creature with Defender. Pay 7. Roving Keep gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. It can attack this turn as though it didn't have Defender. It wandered slowly across the landscape, calling out in its lonely voice, but no other castles answered its cries. From beyond the Great Henge. Corridor Monitor. 1 and a blue for a 1/4 construct artifact creature. When Corridor Monitor enters the battlefield, untap target artifact or creature you control. Castle Vantress has no locks on its doors, but interlopers rarely make it past the foyer. Flutterfox, 1 and a white for a 2/2 fox creature. As long as you control an artifact or enchantment, Flutterfox has flying. The white fox grinned. How about a pet dragon? If I win, the skies are mine. After he stopped laughing, the dragon agreed. From Tales of the Fae. Flaxen Intruder costs a single green for a 1/2 human berserker creature. Whenever Flaxen Intruder deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment. The middle blade was just right. With an adventure, welcome home. 5 and 2 green for a sorcery. Create 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens. Then exile this card. You may cast this creature later from exile. Inquisitive Puppet costs 1 for a 0/2 construct artifact creature. moat. If we're lucky, it can't swim. This is Sir Brannigan, Knight of Ardenvale. Shining Armor. 1 and a white equipment artifact. When Shining Armor enters the battlefield, attach it to target knight you control. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has vigilance. Equip for 3. Pay 3 and attach to target creature you control. Equip only as a sorcery. Run away together. 1 and a blue instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. Virtue is virtue, whatever the heart that nurtures it. This Malikan Vantress Exile. Garenbrig Carver. 3 and a green for a 3/2 human warrior creature. Countless knights of Garenbrig owe their lives to his peerless craftsmanship. Shield's Might. 1 and a green for an instant adventure. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Then exile this card. You may cast the creature later from exile. Giant's Skewer. 1 and a black equipment artifact. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a creature, create a food token. It's an artifact with pay 2, tap, and sacrifice this artifact. You gain 3 life. Equip for 3, pay 3. Attach to target creature you control. Equip only as a sorcery. Corridor Monitor. 1 and a blue for a 1/4 construct artifact creature. When Corridor Monitor enters the battlefield, untap target artifact or creature you control. Castle Vantress has no locks on its doors, but interlopers rarely make it past the foyer. Garenbrig Paladin. 4 and a green for a 4/4 giant knight creature. With Adamant, if at least 3 green mana was spent to cast this spell, Garenbrig Paladin enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Garenbrig Paladin can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Dwarven Mine. Mountain Land. Tap to add a red. Dwarven Mine enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other mountains. When Dwarven Mine enters the battlefield untapped, create a 1/1 red dwarf creature token. Weapon Rack costs 4. It's an artifact. Weapon Rack enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Tap to move a +1/+1 counter from Weapon Rack onto target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. No weapon stays on the rack for long in the Burning Yard. Brimstone Trebuchet. 2 and a red for a 1/3 wall artifact creature with Defender and Reach. Tap. Brimstone Trebuchet enters the battlefield. Brimstone Trebuchet deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever a knight enters the battlefield under your control, untap Brimstone Trebuchet. Covetous Urge. 4 blue-black hybrid banners. Sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. You may cast spider creature with reach. After years of taunt and aerial assaults from Rankle's minions, the witches of Merreleaf Forest acquired new familiars. Smitten Swordsman. 1 and a black for a 2/1 human knight creature with a lifelink. My quest: why to marry a Yara or die trying. With an adventure, curry favor for a black. Sorcery. You gain X life and each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of knights you control. That is also a foil. Foil Searing Barrage. 4 and a red instant. Searing Barrage deals 5 damage to target creature. Adamant: if at least 3 red mana was spent to cast this spell, Searing Barrage deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. This is a foil. It emerged from the coldest depths of Lochmere, only to face the fires of Ironcrag. Didn't say please. That's a foil. Costs 1 and 2 blue. Instant. Counter target spell. Its controller puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. If you were in our home, we expect you to mind your manners. Prophet of the Peak. Costs 6. It's a 5/5 cat artifact creature. When Prophet of the Peak enters the battlefield, scry 2. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, then put any number of them on the bottom of your library and the rest on top in any order. It frequently predicts imminent death by devouring. Merreleaf Rider. Foil. 1 and a green for a 3/1 elf knight creature. Sacrifice a food. Target creature blocks Merreleaf Rider this turn, if able. They both hunger for battle. True Love's Kiss. Foil. 2 and a white. 2 and 2 white. Instant. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Draw a card. Be careful, dear. Some people deserve their curses, says Merwin, Barrow Witch. And we got a foil Lock Dragon. Costs 4 blue-red hybrid mana for a 3/2 dragon creature with flying. Whenever Lock Dragon enters the battlefield or attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Despite its ferocity, its favor can be won with a gift of something it's never seen before. Embereth Shieldbreaker. 1 and a red for a 2/1 human knight creature. My courage is the only shield I need. Has an adventure. Battle display. Costs a red for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact. Flaxen Intruder. Costs a red. No. Costs a green for a 1/2 human berserker creature. Whenever Flaxen Intruder deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. When you do, destroy target artifact or enchantment. The middle blade was just right. It has an adventure. Welcome home. Costs 5 and 2 green for sorcery. Create 3 2/2 green bear creature tokens. Garen Brigg Carver. has an adventure. Shield's Might. 1 and a green. Instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Reaper of Night. 5 and 2 black for a 4/5 Spectre creature. Whenever Reaper of Night attacks, if defending player has 2 or fewer cards in hand, it gains flying until end of turn. It has an adventure, Harvest Fear. Sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Oh. No. This one looked like a foil for a second. Windscarred Crag. Land. Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield tapped. When Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a red or a white. Witch's Vengeance. 1 and 2 black for a sorcery. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3/-3 until end of turn. Oh. Vantress Gargoyle. 1 and a blue for a 5/4 gargoyle artifact creature with flying. Vantress Gargoyle can't attack unless defending player has 7 or more cards in their graveyard. Vantress Gargoyle can't block unless you have 4 or more cards in hand. Tap. Each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. Oh, that was a foil, by the way. And we got a 1/1 blue fairy artifact, creature token. Foil. Oh, and on the back is a foil food token artifact with pay 2. Tap. Sacrifice this artifact. You gain 3 life. So, as far as rares go, and foils, well, except for some of the foils in the collector booster, I forgot about that. We have a foil Vantress Gargoyle. Witch's Vengeance. Robber of the Rich. Stolen by the Fae. Opportunistic Dragon. Emery, Lurker of the Loch. Castle Locthwain. Sorcerer's Broom. Foil. Another Vantress Gargoyle. A foil Silver Flame Ritual